Hi everyone, Berghaus has invited us to their HQ to take a look at what goes on behind the scenes. Let's go. We're on our way to the archive room to meet Fiona, who's head of design here at Berghaus. She's going to show us a few of the key pieces and their history.
One of the big projects that we've worked on is really about being able to bring Berghaus DNA and heritage to life. So with that in mind, we have the Dean Street collection. One of the most important pieces that we have is the Mirror Peak. What we've actually done is brought this piece out from our history books, and the Mirror Peak we've kept very true to the original design and then kind of reinvented it for the 21st century. So we've up-spec'd on the materials. I mean, all of the materials that Berghaus has ever used anyway have been grounded in branded functionality. So we always use Gore-Tex on our really key shell jacket pieces. But one of the key things that Berghaus has always done is kind of had this individual secondary brand marking, like for instance this with the Mirror Peak. And then one of the other key styles that we brought out of our archive is the Tremanta. And with this one, basically it's a fully kind of wind blocking shell. So we used, this original piece was using the Gore windstopper. And one of the really key things has been with this woven tape as well. So you'll actually see this design coming back into new collections. We then have some more recent pieces actually. One of our real classic iconic jackets is the Trango. This jacket really served to kind of embed Berghaus in the kind of psyche, the cultural psyche, both from a performance aspect and from a streetwear aspect, because this jacket was originally built for an expedition to K2. And then when you go back into like 90s rave culture, this was like a real classic jacket that was worn back then as well. And then our other real classic piece is this Expedition Down jacket that Chris Bonington, Sir Chris, was using. And this, again, we brought back from our archive and we're re-releasing it in autumn/winter 24 as a real classic down piece. And it's super high performance, really heavyweight down. All its functionality is really strong, and it just has really, really strong heritage and story behind it. And that's really what it's all about, is really building on that original DNA of the brand. Got some super iconic styles. And if you look at all the bags and things, I mean, we come from a really strong history in bags like this Cyclops pack. You know, the Cyclops was really iconic, really well known. The Rockstar as well. So we've, you know, reissued packs like the Rockstar. And one thing that Berghaus has always done is they've always had like these really unique, iconic branding details. So, you know, just with this label itself, you know, just having Berghaus and it's actually got Newcastle upon Tyne, Great Britain on there. There's just like some really strong, beautiful graphic language that we can bring to life.
So now we're off to the lab to meet Rosemary, who's going to tell us a bit more about the rigorous testing Berghaus products go through. So we're here in the lab, this is Rosemary, and we're going to hear a little bit about what Berghaus does here.
So in this lab is kind of our main facility for doing due diligence testing on fabrics, so making sure they're up to scratch, making sure they're up to our standards, as well as doing innovative testing. So we'll get new samples of things that may be new to the market, new technologies, and we can run them through our machines here and just make sure.
So what is all this on the table then?
So this is a mix of things just now. Start with these jackets are actually return samples. So we also link with our QA department a lot. So when we get things in for returns or things through our Repairhaus system, we can check the garments here. And then we've got a range of different materials that are all kind of new innovations, so new coatings, things like that, to test, see if we can maybe feed them into our ranges for future. So big focus on being more environmentally friendly just now and making substitutes for those kind of fabrics. It's kind of a whole range of testing that's done here, but everything from your basic wash testing. So with materials, especially like waterproof breathables, we'll wash them multiple times to make sure they're retaining their properties. So making sure that DWRs don't wash off, so they're still going to be water repellent after 10 washes. This is a roto wash, so we use this. It's like using a washing machine, but you can just be more specific. So you've got a canister that you put the fabric in, and then at the end you can filter out the water. So we use this for our microfiber testing to see how much fabric's shed, to see kind of microplastics coming off them. So you can come into this bit if you want.
Come on in, guys.
So we've got a range of tests in here for, this is mostly for our raw materials. So starting here we've got our, I'll stop it so you can hear, but we've got our martindale abrasion test. Normally we'd mount samples in these kind of sample holders, and then you mount a separate fabric underneath, and it just performs this rubbing motion. So it just continually rubs it over and over again. It's kind of to replicate if you've got like rucksack straps or something, shoulder straps that are rubbing on your jacket. So this one here is our downproof tester. For this one, we'll make a pillow of down. So this is just a really wee pillow that's like overstuffed with down, and it's clamped in here, and then this machine just rubs it back and forth. So the idea with this is that it rubs it for 9,999 rubs. So again, it's like kind of condensed durability. And then at the end, we'll be able to see if any down is leaking out. So it's a way to tell if you're gonna wear a jacket, if you're like walking and the arms are rubbing against your sides, making sure that nothing's gonna leak out and it's gonna stay as cozy as when it started. We've got this machine here is for air permeability. So we'd clamp a fabric in here and it pushes air through it, so it can measure how much air is being pushed through. So you're looking at kind of like your windproof fabrics, or potentially your like the polar opposite. So if you don't want them to be windproof, if you want it to be almost like cooling, I guess, so like mesh running shoes, things like that. And then this is our CRE machine, so it's controlled rate of extension. So you've got these two sections here that they basically just move up and down, and then you've got a reader in here that can read kind of the force required to pull fabric apart. But it's a really basic machine, but it can do so many different things. So for example, this one's a tear strength test. So what it'll do is it'll pull the fabric apart, and we've already started a tear by just cutting this section. So it'll just keep pulling, and it'll give us a read of the force required to rip the fabric. So this one's connected to the computer, so it'll give you a graph, and you can see each of the peaks is where the individual threads are then breaking. And then this one, this is for breathability. This section here will be filled with hot water or warm water. And then you would mount the fabrics. So the fabrics are mounted in holders like this. So this is actually just a piece of gore right now. We've got this solution. So this is potassium acetate, which is hydrophilic, so it absorbs water. So we'd weigh this solution, and then we turn it upside down on the fabric and leave it there for 15 minutes. And because the water is warm in here, it's evaporating. So it'll pass through the fabric, and then this will kind of absorb the water, so it'll collect it. And then we weigh it again at the end, so we can tell how much water has been absorbed throughout the 15 minutes. And we can then tell how breathable the fabric is. This one is hydrostatic head. So again, it's kind of quite an industry standard test for how waterproof a fabric is. So there's a chamber underneath here that's full of water, and we've got an air compressor in here. And it uses the air to pump the water up underneath the material. So the face of the material, or the outside of the fabric, is facing against the water, and it just increases the water pressure up until the point where we'll see it start coming through the fabric, or sometimes the fabric just totally bursts, which is messy. And then that basically gives us our reading. So you know when you get like, it'll be 2,000 millimeters hydrostatic head, 20,000, that kind of thing. This is how we take that measurement. This one here is spray rating. So where this is waterproofness, this is then water resistance. So when you have your kind of DWR coating on your fabric, it should then, hopefully, the water should bead off. So this is for testing pilling. We'd mount a cylinder of fabric on these tubes and then pop them just in these pilling boxes. So again, it's just a big empty box. We'd put these in, and then this basically just rotates. So when these are inside, they'd just be hitting against each other, they'd be rubbing. So it's kind of to test, like, make sure your fleece isn't gonna pill, make sure it's not gonna bobble.
that was so interesting. I think we've both learnt so much. Thank you for taking the time to explain, and we can't wait to take it back to the office and tell everyone about all these different things that you're doing. So now we're off to meet Jason, who's going to tell us about all things Repairhaus. So what actually is Repairhaus?
Repairhaus is Berghaus's free repair service. So pretty much doesn't matter how old your kit is, providing it's still got a little bit of wear left in it, we'll try and get it kind of back up and running again. Whether it be a zip, your elastics, you've kind of damaged it, we'll endeavour to kind of repair the item and get it back to you. Right, so on this one we've got a jacket which has had a little bit of tear on the front. What we'll do is we'll try and find a donor jacket that we've got kind of a pile of, kind of stock of downstairs. We'll look for a good colour match. Something that kind of isn't out of place on the garment, and then we'll stick the patch on. This is the sheet glue, so we'll cut a bit of glue, that's going to fit over there. So that'll fit over there without too much of a problem. It's double-sided. The first bit of glue goes down onto the actual fabric itself. This is a heat stamp. Same kind of heat stamps you use when you're putting numbers on the back of football shirts and things like that, so that's the kind of bigger version of it. So that's actually stuck on there now. What we'll do to start with, obviously, we'll actually make the patch to start with, and then we'll apply it obviously onto the garment then. Next stage is to cut it out, and cut it out quite as straight as we can. And we're getting there now, and that's roughly, if it's too big I'll just trim it down a little bit more. So I'm peeling this off now, it exposes the glue on the back. My patch ready to go on. Just use the iron just to kind of tack it in place so it doesn't move, and then we'll get it on the heat stamp. There we go. So this is a pretty common thing that we'll do to kind of get customers' kit back up and running again. We've kind of hidden the hole, we've made it watertight again, and hopefully, do you know what I mean, it'll last in a good number of years. Well,
it's been so nice to meet you, Jason, and thanks for showing us a couple of the repairs and for telling us more about Repairhaus, because we didn't know about it before today.
You're absolutely welcome, and if you ever have some Berghaus kit that does need a repair, you know where to come.
Thank you. We'd like to give a massive thanks to the team at Berghaus for taking the time to show us their amazing facility in Sunderland. To check out our full range of Berghaus kit, shop in-store or online at throug.com.